The leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel has allegedly suffered from kidney failure and allegedly remains a primary target for Mexican and American authorities. The Mencho is the alleged leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. It is a criminal organization primarily dedicated to trafficking, but also involved in other illicit activities such as extortion, kidnapping, and confrontations with security forces.
What if I told you that one of the most feared cartel leaders in the world, El Mencho, met a brutal end, caught on camera for everyone to see? El Mencho, the leader of the infamous Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, wasn't just a man. He was a force of nature. His name alone struck fear into the hearts of his enemies, and even his own allies. But now, the same man who once controlled a powerful empire with an iron fist might have met his demise in a shocking betrayal. This story of betrayal and violence has rocked the world, and the chilling footage of El Mencho's supposed execution is circulating everywhere. How could a man with so much power be taken down? And who dared to cross him, knowing the bloody consequences? In today's video, we'll dive deep into El Mencho's rise to power, the terrifying control he had over Mexico's drug trade, and the shocking series of events that led to his brutal execution. We'll explore why this story matters, not just for Mexico, but for the entire world.
Mencho has become a prominent, notorious, and influential figure in the world of organized crime in Mexico and is wanted by both Mexican and American authorities due to his alleged ties to drug trafficking.
When it comes to Mexican drug cartels, few figures are as infamous as Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho. But how did a poor boy from rural Mexico rise to become the ruthless leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most feared criminal organizations in the world? Let's dive into his story. Born in 1966 in Michoacan, El Mencho grew up in poverty, dropping out of school to help on his family's avocado farm. But the lure of fast money pulled him into the local drug trade, smuggling small amounts of marijuana and heroin across the US-Mexico border. This was just the beginning of his criminal journey. In the late 1980s, El Mencho crossed into the US, but got arrested for drug crimes and deported. Back in Mexico, he didn't return to farming. Instead, he dove deeper into organized crime, eventually aligning with the Milenio cartel. When the cartel fractured, El Mencho seized the opportunity and formed the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG. What set El Mencho apart was his brutal leadership. He demanded absolute loyalty, punishing betrayal with death and rewarding loyalty with power. His violent rise was marked by shocking acts, like dumping 35 bodies on a Veracruz highway in 2011. This was a message to everyone. CJNG was here to stay, and it wasn't playing around. Under El Mencho, CJNG expanded rapidly, becoming one of the largest drug suppliers to the US, especially in methamphetamine. But they didn't stop at drugs. They were involved in arms trafficking, extortion, and more. CJNG's violent turf wars with rival cartels, including the Sinaloa cartel, further established their dominance. One of the most notorious moments in El Mencho's reign came in 2015 when CJNG shot down a Mexican military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade, showing just how far he would go to protect his empire.
The ongoing and intense fight against the CJNG has been a focal point in security efforts in both Mexico and the USA.
El Mencho's reign was built on fear, violence, and ruthless control, making CJNG one of the most powerful cartels in Mexico. But now, with rumors of his death circulating, the big question is, what happens to CJNG next? Stay tuned to find out how the cartel world might change in the wake of El Mencho's possible demise.
But around 2019, something crucial changed for the CJNG. El Mencho disappeared. He'd always been a reclusive leader, never attracting the publicity of characters like El Chapo. But reports and rumors began circulating that he was completely removed from the day-to-day command of the cartel. And perhaps that he was actually
Loyalty was everything to El Mencho. In the dangerous world of cartels, where alliances can shift overnight, El Mencho demanded absolute obedience from his men. He rewarded loyalty, but was known for his ruthless punishment of betrayal. His reign was marked by extreme violence, not just against rival cartels, but even against his own people if they stepped out of line. But as with any empire built on fear, cracks were starting to form within. The CJNG was growing rapidly, and with that came more power, more money, and more internal rivalries. Some members of the cartel began to feel uneasy under Mencho's tight grip. They saw opportunities to take over, and these whispers of discontent started circulating within his ranks. Some of his closest allies began secretly plotting against him, thinking they could do things better. or at the very least, take a piece of the pie for themselves. The betrayal came from within his own circle. Internal cartel dynamics are incredibly complex, where every decision is a life or death gamble. Loyalty is the currency in this dangerous game, and the moment that breaks, everything can fall apart. For Mencho, it was a ticking time bomb. Even though he maintained control through fear, those closest to him started plotting his downfall. In this world, the only thing more dangerous than an enemy is a former ally.
Written by Jose Manuel Rodriguez and performed by Ricardo Lobo, which has so far recorded nearly 38,000 views and is currently trending. Today he left. His absence is strongly felt, for the head has fallen. Came for him. While he lived, they could never touch him.
So, how did the mighty El Mencho fall? The betrayal that led to his downfall came from people he trusted, people who had served alongside him. It wasn't a rival cartel that got him. It was his own lieutenants, the very ones who had helped him build the CJNG into the force it became. This inner circle knew Mencho better than anyone else, his strengths, his weaknesses, and most importantly, his vulnerabilities. At first, Mencho didn't see it coming. He was a man who thought his position was unshakable. His cartel had grown so powerful that he believed anyone who dared to betray him would face immediate consequences. However, even for someone as ruthless and feared as Mencho, it's impossible to keep an eye on everyone all the time. His leadership style, brutal and unyielding, had made him many enemies over the years, even within his own organization. Some of these enemies were willing to take the risk to remove him from power. The betrayal was swift and brutal. Rumors suggest that Mencho's downfall involved a coordinated plot where a few key figures turned against him. Perhaps they saw an opportunity to seize control, thinking Mencho's health, reportedly weakened by years of stress and illness, made him vulnerable. Whatever the reason, the trap was set. Mencho was lured into a situation where his power meant nothing, and suddenly, he was no longer the man in control. For someone who ruled through fear and violence, this betrayal was the ultimate payback. Mencho had created a culture where no one felt safe, not even his closest associates. In the end, the same fear he used to control others became his undoing. Those around him had learned from the master, and they used his own playbook to bring about his brutal execution. This betrayal didn't just mark the end of Mencho's reign, it sent shockwaves through the cartel world. If a figure as powerful as El Mencho could be taken down by his own people, it raised the question, who could be next?
On the YouTube platform, the Corrido Ya Se Fue was published, which deals with the alleged death of the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
Alright, this is where things get intense. The execution footage of El Mencho is nothing short of shocking. It first surfaced on social media, spreading like wildfire across various platforms. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Imagine it, one of the most feared cartel leaders, the man who ruled with an iron fist, now completely vulnerable, and his execution caught on camera for the world to witness. Let's break down what we know about this video. According to reports, the footage was filmed secretly, but the question that haunts everyone is who captured it and why? Was it his own people, rivals looking to send a message, or someone close to him who turned on him? The fact that it was released to the public, especially knowing the cartel's power, suggests there's more going on behind the scenes. Whoever leaked it wasn't just showing a death, they were making a statement. The video itself, brutal. You can see the cold precision with which they carry out the act. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and it's disturbing. From the very first frame, the tension is high, almost as if the air itself was thick with fear. The camera focuses on El Mencho, sitting helpless, restrained, and facing his grim fate. You can feel the power shift in the room. The man who once held an entire region in fear now looks defeated. The method of execution aligns with the ruthless tactics the cartel is known for. It wasn't quick or merciful, and that's where the message becomes clear. They wanted to make an example out of him, to show that even the most powerful can be brought down in the most violent way possible. His execution was carried out with chilling precision, a style that the cartel uses not just to eliminate threats, but to enforce loyalty.
This assassination could mark the start of a real season of political violence in Mexico, and that's because next July the country's holding its biggest ever elections. And in the run-up to elections in the country is usually the point where criminal groups try to position their own candidates, and they often do that by rival ones.
The brutality of the execution speaks volumes about cartel culture. It's not just about killing, it's about dominance, fear, and control. They could have simply gotten rid of him, but instead, they chose a method that instilled fear into anyone watching. It was designed to send a message. This is what happens when you betray us. The symbolism here is crystal clear. Loyalty is everything in the cartel world, and betrayal comes at the highest price. And here's what makes it even more chilling. The way it was filmed almost seems calculated. Every angle, every shot appears deliberate, like they wanted the audience, whether that's the public or their enemies, to see just how far they're willing to go to keep control. As you can imagine, when the footage hit the internet, the reactions were explosive. The public, both in Mexico and worldwide, was in shock. Some were terrified, others morbidly curious. People couldn't stop talking about it. On social media, the video was shared, reposted, and dissected. But it wasn't just the public reacting. Law enforcement also took a deep interest. For the authorities, this video was more than just a shocking revelation. It was a key piece of evidence. Mexican law enforcement and even international agencies began analyzing it, trying to figure out where it was filmed, who was involved, and what this meant for the future of the CJNG cartel. They saw it as an opportunity to crack open the secrets of one of the most dangerous organizations in the world, rival cartels. They saw weakness. For years, El Mencho had been a symbol of power, and now that image was shattered. His death, especially caught on camera, sent shockwaves through the underworld. The rival cartels could smell blood in the water, and many saw this as their chance to seize power and territory from the CJNG. It was a moment that signaled potential shifts in the balance of power across Mexico. It didn't take long for the footage to go viral. The video circulated not only in Mexico, but around the globe, catching the attention of news outlets and individuals alike. Everyone was talking about it, from cartel experts to ordinary people, horrified by the brutality. The fact that the video was available online for anyone to see only added to its mystique and fear factor. After the shocking footage of El Mencho's brutal execution surfaced, it sent shockwaves through the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. They were already known for their ruthless enforcement of loyalty, but this betrayal caught them off guard. The CJNG had to respond quickly to avoid showing any signs of weakness. They attempted to control the narrative, spreading rumors, and even denying that the man in the video was El Mencho. The cartel's goal was to keep fear alive and show they were still in control. Internally, the cartel faced a serious crisis. With El Mencho gone, there was a massive power vacuum at the top. Who would take over? Would his closest allies step in, or would rivals within the cartel seize this opportunity? This uncertainty created tension and sparked internal conflict. Some high-ranking members saw this as their chance to grab power, and the cartel risked splintering into factions. The CJNG, once a tightly organized and feared group, was on the verge of tearing itself apart from the inside. El Mencho's death didn't just shake up the CJNG, it sent ripples throughout the entire Mexican cartel landscape. Rival cartels, like the Sinaloa and Gulf cartels, quickly moved to take advantage of the situation. They saw El Mencho's death as a golden opportunity to reclaim territory and expand their influence. Suddenly, battles for control intensified, leading to a violent scramble for power across key regions in Mexico. The power vacuum left by El Mencho's execution meant alliances shifted quickly. Some groups who once feared the CJNG's dominance began negotiating with rival cartels to secure their positions. New alliances were being formed, and new leaders were emerging. This reshuffling of power was chaotic and deadly, with no clear dominant cartel in sight. On the law enforcement side, both Mexican and U.S. authorities took immediate action following El Mencho's death. His execution sparked a renewed focus on cracking down on the CJNG. Mexican military and police forces launched raids, trying to take advantage of the cartel's internal turmoil. U.S. agencies also ramped up efforts, targeting CJNG's operations on both sides of the border. However, despite these efforts, El Mencho's death didn't bring immediate peace. Instead, the violence escalated. Rival factions fought for control, leading to even more bloodshed. In the chaos, law enforcement faced the tough reality that while they may have eliminated a key figure, the war on drugs was far from over. The CJNG was down, but not out, and the fight for power had only just begun. El Mencho's rise to power tells a dark story about the nature of organized crime. He wasn't just a cartel leader, he was a symbol of fear, violence, and ruthless ambition. Under his leadership, the CJNG became one of the most powerful and dangerous cartels in Mexico, leaving a bloody trail wherever they went. El Mencho's brutal tactics earned him both respect and fear, not just from his enemies, others, but from those within his own ranks. But ultimately, even the most feared leaders can fall. His death was a reminder that in the world of organized crime, betrayal can come from anywhere. No matter how powerful you are, loyalty is fragile, and power can slip away in an instant. El Mencho's execution quickly became part of his legend. The brutal nature of his death only added to the mythology surrounding him. Some believe that his death was faked, that the video was staged to throw off law enforcement and rival cartels. Others think that even in death, El Mencho planned his exit, ensuring that his death would cause more chaos and confusion.
So with all the rumors around El Mencho being dead or very ill or out of the cartel, that started, I guess they started like around 2020 when we started reading about El Mencho being out of the cartel Jalisco. I reached out to two middle range commanders inside the cartel Jalisco New Generation. One of them believed that he was just literally just out of the cartel.
Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire, with people debating whether he was really dead or if he'd gone underground. Some even suggested that the footage was deliberately leaked by the CJNG to flush out traitors within the organization. The uncertainty surrounding his death only fuels his myth, making him a ghostly figure that continues to haunt Mexico's drug war. What does El Mencho's death mean for the future of Mexico's ongoing war on drugs? On one hand, his removal from the equation might seem like progress. He was one of the most dangerous men in Mexico, and his death represents a significant blow to the CJNG. However, the bigger question remains, does his death truly change anything? Cartel violence is deeply rooted in Mexico's political and economic system, and taking out one leader doesn't mean the end of the problem. In fact, the vacuum left by El Mencho may only lead to more violence as rival factions fight for control. In the end, El Mencho's execution is just another chapter in the brutal, never-ending cycle of violence that defines Mexico's war. As long as the demand for remains, so too will the cartels, and new leaders will rise to take the place of the old. So, let's recap the incredible story of El Mencho. We've explored his rise to power, how he went from being just another figure in the cartel world to the ruthless leader of the CJNG, one of Mexico's most dangerous cartels. His reign was marked by fear, violence, and absolute control. But, as with most power-hungry leaders, betrayal was lurking in the shadows. In a shocking twist, El Mencho's downfall came not from rivals or the authorities, but from within his own world. His brutal execution, caught on camera, revealed just how dangerous betrayal can be in the world of organized crime. Now, while we've seen footage and heard stories, there's still so much uncertainty about his death. Is El Mencho really dead? Or is this just another strategic move in the never-ending chess game of cartel power? What we do know is that his death, real or not, has sent shockwaves throughout the cartel world, shaking up alliances and sparking questions about who will take over. His brutal end, or at least the story of it, serves as a chilling reminder of how dangerous life can be in that world. Loyalty is everything, and betrayal comes at a deadly price. Before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What do you think? Is El Mencho really gone? Or is this just another chapter in the cartel's complex story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our deep dives into the world of cartels, crime, and everything in between. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.